Let's upcycle a Dollar Tree sign from this to this with just a few simple techniques. All right, so I grabbed the sign from the Dollar Tree, and it's one of those ones where you can just undo the back. So I'm taking it out of its frame. I'm not going to change the frame. You could, but I'm just going to leave the frame as it is. I like black. So now I don't want with gather here with grateful hearts. That's fine, but it's not what I'm after. So I have a piece of parchment paper or wax paper under here just to keep things neat and tidy. You don't have to do that, but hey, why not? Now, this is paint from the Dollar Tree. I'm not crazy about the white. Now, this white is from a different store, but the white, the Art Minds paint from the Dollar Tree, I really don't like it. The black is fine, but the mixing the two together, I wanted to make myself a medium gray because I'm going to try and cover over that black lettering. And it doesn't even have to be a dark gray, it can be a medium gray, but it just helps cover up that black lettering on the sign so I can distress it a little bit later on. So here we go. Just mix it with your brush. It doesn't need to be perfect. It can even be streaky. That is fine. You can see I'm using a really rough brush, and I'm literally just going to paint this over, and then gray really blocks out the lettering behind. If I was to try and paint over this with white, I'd probably have to do about 6 coats. But because I'm using gray, I can get away with 1 or possibly 2 coats. I don't generally do 2. I just going to give it a quick old dry. And then I'm going to move on to distressing it with the brush and the paint. Now you can kind of see it, but when it starts to dry, you see it disappear. So don't get freaked out until you're finished drying it, and then you decide if you need an extra coat. Super fast drying here. That's my heat gun from my hubby's garage, in case anybody wants to know. There's the white paint. This is a deco art type of paint, which is good. And I'm just really stamping it into my bristle brush here and then going lightly across to get a nice distressed and rustic look for a farmhouse look. That's what I'm after. I want it to be a mainly white background so that my napkin that I'm going to be using next will have something to work with. So this is my fast and easy way to super distress something is a really bristly brush and kind of dry brush it onto your background. Okay, you do it until you're happy. Now watch what happens when I start to dry this. It's going to get interesting. Now you can sort of see the lettering coming through a little bit while it's wet. So you're probably starting to think, uh-oh, what have I done? But that's okay. Just dry it and watch what happens. You can see it coming up because it's gotten wet again. And you think, oh, that's it. It's not going to work. But once it starts to dry, when the paint is really dry, you'll see that lettering does disappear again. So don't start a second coat on that until you know for sure there's some things there. And you might only hit a few letters. You don't have to necessarily do the whole sign. Give it a quick dry and then check to make sure everything's cool. All right, make sure it's dry before you move on to this part. This is your napkin from Dollar Tree, and I have pulled the 2 plies apart. So it's just down to a single ply napkin. That is the way to go if you're doing this technique. And I'm just trying to figure out where would be the best way to frame this up. So I figure, oh, I like that there. I'm checking the frame. Yes, I think this is going to look good. I'm going to allow some space for a stencil. I'm just making those decisions now. And we are going to cut this out. So you can see almost right through the napkin because I've already pulled off the backing and you're down to a single ply. Now this is just water on a paintbrush. And the reason I do this is because I want the edge to be rough. I don't want it to be straight, and this really helps with that. So I'm just sort of outlining roughly around the edge, and then I'm going to pull it apart so it has a jagged edge rather than a straight edge. And that really helps the napkin not show on the paint when you put it down. All right, so we are ready to go. Decide where we want that. I'm going to have to figure out, do I want the bottom like that? Do I want, how far on the side do I want it? I'm going to take my water again and just pull that side piece of the napkin off to just get it out of the way, make it a little easier for me. All right, now the good old Mod Podge. So I can brush it on. Oh, I have some plastic wrap here too because I use that in a second. You'll see why. So I just get a piece that's going to cover where I'm working. And then on with the Mod Podge, a decent layer, and then get your brush and just brush it in. Make sure that everything is covered wherever the napkin's going to be. Make sure it's completely covered. Now, Mod Podge, the kind I have, is going to dry matte, so it's going to match the sheen of the paint. So it's a bit shiny right now, which makes it easy to see where it is, which is great. Then put your napkin on And before you rub it anything, put your plastic down so that you can actually rub it down and get most of those wrinkles and bubbles out without tearing your napkin because it's very fragile once it gets wet with the Mod Podge. There you go. Peel it off gently and boom, it is really, really good. I love this technique. It's my favorite way to do Mod Podge. I probably do it 9 times out of 10 when I'm Mod Podging. All right, back on with the frame, and now I want to just adjust. I have a stencil that I have made, but you can use whatever ones you happen to find. Do not use the chalk couture ones on this just because they will pull up the napkin underneath with the sticky back. My stencil here is not sticky backed, and this is how come this will work. But anything with a sticky back stencil may pull up that napkin that you just worked to put down. All right, so I'm going to stencil onto my sign and I'm just stamping the paint into a cosmetic sponge. And that's how I like to stencil. And I'm going to tap it in and I'm checking to make sure everything's good before I go too far. And then if everything's fine, I just keep going. I might do a couple layers. It depends on how distressed I want this to look. But right now I think this is looking good. So I'm just going to keep stenciling until I'm happy with the end results. See, I always like to keep checking. That's why I don't like a sticky stencil. And you're wondering about those little bridges, they call them, the little things that hold the letters in there. Don't worry, we have a fix for that right at the end, so keep watching. All right, got a little bit of that napkin came up. So you, like I said, that's why you would not want to use any kind of sticky stencil. All right, and then there we go. It is stenciled in and ready to go. Now, like I say, you see those little bridges, those little where the spaces where it's holding things in. Um, I'm going to fix that by using a ultra fine Sharpie marker, and I'm literally just going to fill it in, and it's going to look like I hand painted this on. And that Sharpie marker is not going anywhere. That's waterproof. It's exactly what I need for this. So that's what I recommend. Sharpie ultra fine. Pick them up at Walmart, places like that. Anything waterproof. You can buy other ones if you are into card making and things like that. But this is what I had on hand, so this is what I use. There we go. I'm very happy with that. So then I just grab the frame, push back the tabs, put the sign in, make sure it's right side up, upside down, put the tabs down, flip it over, and I have a cute little fall decor sign now that I'm really happy with and I think looks much better than the sign that was in it before. So all this for about $1.50. Hope you enjoyed the video.